Hey, welcome back to Mondays with Mike. We're going to pick up where we left off, where we're talking about investing in real estate. That's been a topic that a lot of people have shown some interest in for good reason. It's a great investment. Today, we're going to go into what are some sources for funding that you can get for an investment property. You know, for the purchase of a home, it's pretty easy. If you don't have the cash socked away, you can get a loan from X number of banks. Got a few things here just to help guide us. Mortgage is still a possibility for investment property, but you've got to be careful. If it's not a primary residence, if it's an investment property, you're going to have different underwriting guidelines, probably a different rate. Some people like to do what's called house hacking, where maybe you buy a two-family and it's your primary residence and you can qualify for a more favorable loan program, but you have a roommate or you rent out the other unit. It's a great way for people to get started in real estate investing, especially if you want to get that cash flow that we were talking about last week. Beyond that, you've got to consider the condition that the property's in. If it's for a flip or if it's a property that can't be mortgaged. Remember Greg Ahern was on a few weeks ago talking about 203K loans. There are a few different types of rehab loans that you can get and not have to just bring cash to the table if significant improvements are needed in the house. That's a nice way of putting it. Hard money maybe gets a bad name, but it's called that for a reason. You're going to be getting a loan from a private lender, not a federally approved mortgage bank, and they're going to charge you a lot on interest. You know, you're looking at between 12 and 16%. I mean, there are usury laws in New York State, but it's a mixed bag. Make sure you go with someone who's reputable among other investors, and it's not a terrible option despite having a very hard name. Family money, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to come from money. I think if you pull some capital from siblings, you might be able to make that work. We're going to get to where you could go a little off the rails on the last one here. HELOC, that stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. This might be a good option for you if you've been living in your house for a while, you've paid down debt. Remember last week we were talking about paying down the debt and realized there's some nice appreciation in your home value. You might be able to take a line of credit that's going to be mortgaged against your primary residence. And if you can get a cash out where you're taking that money and putting it into an investment, you'll probably get a decent rate, and it's a nice way to use that equity without actually having to sell the house. Fund, I put a question mark, not because a fund is a bad thing. It's a great way to be able to buy property and to have a pooled asset to deploy, pooled capital to deploy, but you have to be careful because there are securities laws. You shouldn't just go out and say, hey, I'm going to raise money from 10 people, we're going to put it in a bank account, and maybe I'll open an LLC, maybe I won't. You really actually have to talk to a securities lawyer, and I'm going to sound like a real lawyer for suggesting this, but you can get into a lot of trouble if you start selling private securities, which is what you'll be doing, and raising money before you're ready. You really need a lawyer for that one. You should always have a lawyer, you should always have a good broker, but that one in particular, I'd be very careful about just jumping right into it. So that's it. Don't want to go too long on any of these. Be looking in the comments for any suggestions for next week. We could stick on this topic. There's plenty to talk about. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.